From the broadcast center at BCIT's Burnaby Campus, this is All Talk Radio. You're listening to 1680 The Crow.
Welcome back to 1680 The Crow. I'm your host, Anthony Atanasov. Here's what's going on in the news world. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau says the bombing of a hospital in Gaza is illegal and reprehensible. Trudeau is responding to unfolding reports by the Hamas-run Gaza Health Ministry that an Israeli airstrike hit a hospital in Gaza City. This resulted in hundreds of Palestinians being killed.
The news coming out of Gaza is horrific and absolutely unacceptable. International humanitarian and international law needs to be respected in this and in all cases.
The Israeli military says it was still collecting details on the incident, citing that they didn't know whether the airstrike actually came from Israel. Moving on to some local news, everyone knows that excessive drinking can harm your health over time, but not everyone knows what leads to this destructive habit. Our reporter Chris Koo has more details.
The new Canada's guideline on alcohol and health brings awareness of the danger that drinking culture could bring. It suggests all people, regardless of age, sex, gender, tolerance for alcohol, or lifestyle, to drink less than 2 drinks per week. However, more than 50% of people aged 15 and up in Canada drink more than what's recommended according to Canada's guidance on alcohol and health. Then what leads to excessive drinking? Out of the many psychological reasons, psychiatrist David Menkes from New Zealand says taking SSRIs or antidepressants that's prescribed for low mood, anxiety, insomnia and such can lead a person to crave drinking more than usual. However, the new studies found that it is possible for people to continue absorbing SSRIs without showing the symptoms of excessive drinking while also improving one's mood. Chris Koo, 1680 The Crow.
Premier David Eby wants Surrey Mayor Brenda Locke to move ahead with the city's transition from the RCMP to a municipal police force, saying the decision is no longer up for discussion. Eby also predicts a court challenge launched by Surrey against the provincial government order requiring the switch will not be successful. His comments made this morning at an event in Victoria come one day after Solicitor General Mike Farnworth introduced legislation that would force Surrey to move to the Surrey Police Service. Locke campaigned against the municipal force and has resisted efforts to begin the handover. But Eby says it's for everyone's benefit to move ahead, and he looks forward to working with Locke on the new measures. The City of Vancouver will be installing a scramble crosswalk at 4 potential locations. City Council unanimously voted on the idea to make a multi-directional crosswalk. Winston Chu, Vancouver's manager of traffic and data management, said that the Granville and Robson intersection was selected as the pilot location due to its higher pedestrian volumes. On the other hand, it is also a cheaper alternative relative to other locations. The hope is that this crosswalk will address some of the conflicts between pedestrians, although this might result in longer waits for pedestrians and cars alike. The crosswalk is expected to be running by next summer. A new study says people experiencing homelessness make up a growing proportion of opioid overdoses in Ontario. Researchers found about 1 in 6 people killed by opioid overdoses in 2021 were homeless, compared to 1 in 14 people back in 2017. They say an increasingly toxic drug supply is a significant factor. British Columbia Centre on Substance Use researcher Jade Boyd wasn't involved in the study, but says the Ontario findings resonate across the country.
People who are living on the street are subject to things like street sweeps or heightened policing, especially among racialized populations. And so sometimes they're trying to find more remote places to use their drugs, but can also result in not having someone present during an overdose.
She says better access to harm reduction services is critical to stopping the overdose deaths. On to weather, and it's nothing but showers with 14 degrees and low of 12 degrees. 90% chances of showers throughout the whole day, even going into the next morning. And thank you for joining me on 1680 The Crow. Stay tuned for more updates at 3 p.m. with your host, Brooke Jensen. I'm Anthony Atanasov, and I'll see you at 3:30 for some updates.
Stay tuned for more on BCIT's 1680 The Crow.
everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikka-King.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretanero.
And I'm Radhika Sikka-King. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.
too fast because my heart is going a bit too fast, so I'm going to slow it down a bit.
like middlemen straight from the creator making these moves.
We're all kind of misfits.
Something to look forward to, you know? I feel like it's important. Like usually I'll just be like, grab my arm, and then you just kind of like pull them like a T-bar, you know?
I think skateboarding is a piece of medicine in itself.
We're just doing the work in hopes that eventually we'll have chapters of other nations skate youth in other parts of Turtle Island.
It's nations, skate yours.
Nation Skate Youth started in my living room, organically. I was asked to go to Fort St. John to talk about mental health and bring skateboarding. I didn't know who to bring, and the first person I thought of was Joe Buffalo. Big inspiration in my life.
Joe came up with the name. It didn't really click at first, but after a while we made the logo and everything, and it all just came together so fast.
I think one of my main goals when I started Nations was to get more skate parks on reserves. We realized that this would be a bigger thing, to not just go to one community. We wanted to go to all the communities.
We all wanted to, create something that was like a youth program to help empower like youths through skateboarding. It's a way of getting yourself out of your own shell. And I feel like in a lot of First Nations communities, there's not a lot to do in those communities. It's very small, and sometimes you feel like you're trapped. A lot of them are really nervous when we first meet them. And I feel like when we always start with a talking circle. So it's like we tell our stories, and we kind of we try to make them feel comfortable, and tell them why we're there, and what we're gonna do in the day.
Everyone here is a new beginner or has skated before, and we're here to help each other. If you fall down, take a breath, get back up.
Everything's that way in the beginning, you know what I mean? You're gonna feel out of place when you're beginning, you know what I mean? That's normal. But once you meet your crowd, and that's half the battle with us growing up, is trying to find your people so that they grow with them from a young age as family members, and then they grow as skateboarders.
Gives you like a sense of identity too, you know? Like every time I went to school, I'd always be like, I can't wait to go skate after, having that, something to look forward to, you know? I feel like it's important when you're a kid.
Especially having a brother. It's easier to influence each other to do things, and you progress faster because of that. And it's like always having a friend there, and always having that safety net in a sense.
Skating is something that we grew up doing together. I feel like that kept us close, Skateboarding is part of my identity, and my family is part of my identity.
Just let skateboarding do its thing. It's that rich, All we do is connect and instill that, plant that seed. It's something I never had growing up,
Seeing Joe skateboard at his level and hearing that he went to the residential school and the way that kids oh, my dad went to residential school. Oh, my brother did. Oh, my mom did. They start to relate. And I think that, it's been a healing journey. Skateboarding, like I said, will take you out of all the negative, all the darkness that you feel. And once you get on a skateboard, that's an opportunity for you just to focus on something and be present.
Like even in my community, there's suicides like every year, and it's really sad because you lose knowledge keepers, you lose, you know, momentum, like you lose just youth that have a lot of potential. And I remember Rosie, that was the biggest reason why she wanted to start Nations.
You know, to talk about alcohol, drugs, and suicide, because it's happening and they're so young and they see it and they're experiencing it. And just to let them know, like, that they're valued.
It kind of stops that intergenerational trauma because it's a lot of self-doubt, and skateboarding kind of gives you that, you know, that recognition that like it's not, yeah, it just gives you that freedom to express yourself.
Hell yeah.
So today I was skateboarding on the skate park and I was just learning. I was a little nervous at first, but then I got the hang of it. He made me feel happy. Okay, can we do that again?
Yeah, let's do it again. Okay, I'll go on this side of you.
Because he is a good skateboarder and he taught me how to do some tricks. Apple turnover and like tic-tac.
When you have someone believing in you and cheering you on, like that whole feeling, and that's how I try to do with Nations, you know, like you got it, you're there, and the just like the inspiring and like the empowerment you get from that, it's a good feeling. We want the youth to be their best selves. We want them to know that everything isn't going to be easy. But once they start skateboarding and you can see that they're pushing on their own and they're able to do tricks right away, and I think that's something that is so positive, and you know, it's gonna create leadership and create community where there hasn't been. What I've seen at Nations that makes me proud, when I ask a youth how to count in their language or say hello or thank you in their language, and they can tell me.
So kikiu means eagle, musquasses means bear, kukam means auntie, grandma, musha means grandpa, and tuk-tuk means duck.
What's your favorite word in Cree?
Eagle because I'm an eagle.
In so many ways, I was trying to find myself in skateboarding, like the community skateboarding has, which has been really fulfilling in a lot of ways. But I think connecting to my culture, you really do feel that connection with your ancestors when you do that stuff. I feel like with Nations, we're able to use skateboarding as like a tool to empower youth and to like give them, I know Rosie always said it, but like, you know, be proud of who you are and be proud of where you come from. And I feel like it rings so true in so many of the communities that we go to.
To be proud of who you are, be proud of where you come from, not to be ashamed. I feel like when you start telling them that at a young age, it's going to change the way they look at themselves, the way they carry on their culture and their traditions, the way that they will have that close relationship with their grandparents, and to learn. I know for me, I've heard stories that broke me, that completely broke me. And it made me mad, it made me angry, it made me sad, it made me pissed right off at the government. But when you're around youth, you know, you want to show them the hope. You definitely want to show them that there's hope out there.
Because it's needed. Someone's got to be here for the youth. Someone's got to be that person, that older brother, older sister needed, that kind of needed, you know? There's nothing like it. So that's why we figured give back. I'm here to teach you. You're not going to fall. I'm going to hold you, okay? Give me your hands. We're just getting started, man.
having self-determination to be better and to create that community, I think, is something that we want to pass down to the youth as well. Show them what's possible.
Look, Joanna, hey, hey, look, Joanna, hey, hey, CGLA, hey, hey, CGLA, hey, hey, RGLA.
Everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika King.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretnero.
And I'm Radhika King. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.
Everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikakane.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost.
From the Broadcast Center at BCIT's Burnaby Campus, this is All Talk Radio. You're listening to 1680 The Crow.
Good afternoon. I'm Brooke Jensen with your 3 o'clock news headlines. More low-income housing is going to be available to people living in the downtown east side. BC Housing has purchased a 48-unit apartment building on Kiefer Street, which has been vacant since a fire in September 2022. On-site food support and harm reduction programs will be operated by the Downtown East Side Community Land Trust. Minister of Housing, Ravi Kalan, says purchasing this property is taking a step to prevent homelessness before it begins by preserving valuable low-income housing and partnering with organizations that offer additional support. This purchase is a part of the BC government's $19 billion housing investment that has nearly 77,000 homes delivered or in process, 8,000 of which in Vancouver. A tortoise by the name of Frank the Tank was found in a farm in Richmond. It's become the latest instance of exotic pets being abandoned in recent years. Reporter Nicholas Poitras talks to a rescue expert on why these might not be the best fitted for most pets.
Frank the Tank, a 35-pound sulcata tortoise, was found wandering alone in a bok choy farm in Richmond. More and more every year, there has been an increase in exotic pets being surrendered or abandoned in the Lower Mainland. Mike Hopcraft, founder of Reptile Guy Rescue and Education Center, says that tortoises, like Frank, shouldn't be adopted by everyone.
So when it comes to sulcata tortoises especially, we actually don't adopt out to the general public just because it's such a long-term commitment, and we know that the majority of people out there can't take care of these animals long-term.
Frank was taken to an SPCA facility in Maple Ridge. Multiple applications for adoption have come in, but they are only accepting applications from experienced reptile owners. Nicholas Poitras, 1680, The Crow.
And now Nick joins us live. Nick, what specifically about these tortoises makes them so challenging to own?
Well, Brooke, people usually get these kind of tortoises when they're small and cuddly and not aware of how big they get. This is the third largest species of tortoises in the world, and they can easily get up to 200 pounds. So when you aren't prepared to have a pet that large, people will try to rehome them and, in some cases, leave them in the middle of some farmland in Richmond. Another big commitment.
And has there been any new updates on Frank the Tank since talking to Mike?
These tortoises can live up to 150 years old. So committing long-term and finding family members in the future who are willing to take care after you die is quite pivotal.
All right, thank you, Nick. Halloween is a few weeks away. However, for some, the spooky season has been in full effect for a while now. Our reporter Grace McLeod got the chance to speak with a home haunted attraction specialist that is mixing his Halloween passion with a truly thoughtful cause.
Houses and farms alike are being decorated for this Halloween season all around the Lower Mainland. Port Coquitlam resident McCarthy Y is amongst some of these decorating individuals. He has his haunted house attraction up for everyone to enjoy this October. Y, however, has a unique and selfless take on his Halloween passion. Instead of charging people to enter his haunted attraction, he has partnered with a local charity of his choosing in which any and all donations will go towards their cause.
And then this year, I was basically thinking, how can I help kids in our community that deal with food insecurity? And that is essentially the entire mission of Backpack Buddies.
Y is in disbelief with how many people have already donated and are as invested in helping the local community as he is. I'm Grace McLeod, 1680 The Crow.
Anybody who has experienced sexual assault in BC is now able to access free legal services as of today. A Vancouver nonprofit called the Community Legal Assistance Society has launched the Stand Informed program. The program offers up to 3 hours of free, confidential legal advice to anyone of any age, gender, or income. The supervising lawyer, Jennifer Kaur, says the program fills a hole for those who experienced sexual assault but have nowhere to turn legally. The program says they will help whether or not a police report has been filed, or if an individual is uncertain whether or not they have experienced sexual assault, as they will give you the required advice. Premier David Eby is urging the Mayor of Surrey, Brenda Locke, to move along the transition from the RCMP to a municipal police force. Eby says that the decision is no longer up for discussion, and predicts an unsuccessful court challenge against the provincial government from Surrey. These comments come only a day after Solicitor General Mike Farnworth introduced a legislation that would force a Surrey police force. Locke is campaigning against and resisting a designated Surrey police force, but Eby says it's time to move forward for everyone's benefit. With this, Eby has also announced bringing flush toilets to construction sites. Our reporter Ugilo Sunova found out how BC's building traders felt after hearing the news. With Canada setting up new guidelines for alcohol and health this year, it becomes clear to Canadians that drinking more than necessary can have a bad influence. Our reporter Chris Koo had a talk with a substance and addiction specialist on how to manage the situation if it becomes too much.
And violence. It also adds that the heart disease risk or stroke from alcohol gets increasingly high after a person consumes more than 7 drinks or more per week. Recovery coach Michael Walsh from Vancouver speaks about how he interacts with clients that may have the symptoms of alcohol use disorder.
They are met with a comforting voice or dialogue with someone who receives them kind of as they are, right? I meet clients where they're at and provide a supportive environment.
The final report also suggests people should not start to use alcohol or increase their alcohol use for health benefits either. I'm Chris Koo from 1680 The Crow.
The Gaza Health Ministry says the Baptist Hospital in Al-Ahli, Gaza, has been bombed by Israeli forces. At least 500 people were killed. The hospital held the sick as well as sheltered thousands of citizens who had to flee their homes. The Palestinian president, Mahmoud Abbas, declared a 3-day mourning period. ABC spoke about the hospital with Tala Herzallah, a 21-year-old student who lives in Gaza.
We as civilians, where are we supposed to go? We went to schools, they bombed the schools. We went to the south, they bombed the south. We went to hospitals, they bombed the hospitals.
Canada's Palestinian ambassador says that she was warning Ottawa 6 months ago about the rising tensions within the region and that things were going to turn violent. Mona Abu-Amaraha, the chief representative of the Palestinian General Delegations to Canada, says she is deeply disturbed by the horrifying deaths on both sides, but says Israel's far-right government has been breaking violence-preventing rules.
Just implement the international law that you care so much about. And that's how I'll only ask. We, the defeated people, the weak people under occupation, are asking for international law implementation where our oppressor and occupier flagrantly dismisses it altogether.
Now we're going to be getting into your top sports headlines. Penguins players Mark Friedman and Ty Glover are now officially Canucks players. Friedman, who has scored 4 goals, 8 assists, and 12 points in 65 career NHL games, was exchanged for defenseman Jack Rathbone. Glover has 7 goals, 5 assists, and 12 points in 49 AHL games, and he was exchanged for forward Karel Pilesk. The man accused of gunning down 2 Swedish soccer fans in Brussels has been killed by Belgian police, and the gun was recovered. The Belgium-Swedish match was paused and cancelled halfway through the game, as the shooting was only 5 kilometers away, and had all 34,000 fans held inside the arena until safe. Caroline Laux, a soccer fan who was present at the game, told reporters what it was like when fans were allowed to leave.
Frustrated, confused, scared. I think everyone was quite scared.
Onto our weather report. There's going to be light rain on and off all day. There is a weather warning up and down the coast and on the island with severe winds up to 110 kilometers an hour and severe heavy rainfall. That was your 3 o'clock news and sports headlines. I'm Brooke Jensen, and you're listening to 1680 The Crow.
Stay tuned for more on BCIT's 1680 The Crow.
Everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikakane.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretnero.
And I'm Radhika Sikakane. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.
Hello, I'm Grace McLeod, and this is For the Record on 1680 The Crow. Halloween is just around the corner, and pumpkin patches, spooky mazes, haunted houses, and a range of other Halloween-like things are currently scattered everywhere around the Lower Mainland. Some of these attractions can be quite expensive to attend. This is not the case for one haunted house runner. While the attraction may be free, a fund has been set up in place to support a local charity, and all the donations will go towards their cause. I'm here today with Port Coquitlam resident McCarthy Y to talk about the charity, Halloween, and of course, his haunted house.
So every year I try to change it up essentially because we have a lot of families who come every year. It'd be kind of boring to see the same thing over and over. So pretty much every year the goal is to revamp and completely change the walkthrough. So this year I built a giant archway as the entrance, which is a good photo op for families before coming in. And then, so this year we've got 7 themed rooms as you walk through. Each room ranges from themes. You got, scarecrow, clowns, zombies, kind of your typical Halloween different themes, you could say. In addition to those rooms, we also have multiple props we've got like in the front of our house, we got 2 roofs. So we also have big animatronics on the roofs as well. So in addition to the actual walkthrough, which is really cool, you also have a lot just going on in the graveyard in the front of the house as a display. So really, it's a massive Halloween attraction that caters to all ages, and it's a great event for families.
Well, that sounds so cool. I've seen the pictures on Facebook, and I was immediately like, I'm so coming to this eventually.
Yeah, no, it's definitely really cool.
Awesome. My next question is, how many years have you had this haunted house kind of thing going? Is it like an annual thing or?
So it's a good question. So the kind of the backstory to the whole thing is that I grew up in the house that I'm in currently, and our next door neighbors have always done Halloween decorations since I can literally remember. And it was always, quite small scale, but they had, the skeletons, a vampire, the classic Halloween stuff. However, as I got into my teenage years, they really started to up their game. They built basically a haunted house, and then for me about 7 years ago when I was around 16, I was like, let me give it a shot. And it started out very simple, couple lights, a few animatronics, nothing crazy. However, as I graduated high school, got going with school, I basically said, screw it, I'm going to do it myself and try to basically outdo the neighbors. And so pretty much every year it is a very, very healthy competition now between the 2 houses. And that's also another big thing that families like is when you show up, it's, you're not just getting one haunted house, it's 2 separate haunted houses that you can walk through. So for a lot of families, it's worth the drive. But to answer your question, so now probably when it's been a real haunted attraction, probably 6 years is probably year number 6, I'd say.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And it is always good to have a nice friendly competition, especially with your neighbors, people you kind of grown up near, and that's really cool that you
Well, and I was gonna say, and the best too is like really the competition is just who can raise more money for charity, which can't really get better than that, right? So
exactly, honestly, and that's really where it's at. And
exactly.
I reached out. So all right, I know you were a student. How has it been balancing school and the attraction?
That's a good question. Well, let's just say it's busy for the fall season. So I actually intentionally take summer classes to offset the amount of classes I have to take during this semester, simply because I wouldn't be able to survive doing 5 classes haunted house. That'd just be a little insane. To answer your question, it's a balancing act, but one that I think at this point now, because I'm in my 3rd year of school, I've got it pretty down packed in terms of how I get it all done.
Well, that's good. That's good that you got that kind of going for you.
Yeah, it's a good healthy balance.
Yeah. All right. And are you just doing it for the mainly like your attraction? I know your neighbor's doing it, but is it just you kind of helping out?
So it's really like it's kind of funny. My family loves it. My parents support it, but they have no intention of doing much with it. I'm really a one-man show type of thing. The only time that I do get a bit of help is the takedown, because as you know, Vancouver weather tends to get really cold really quick. So basically what's interesting is the haunted house actually takes 2 to 3 weeks to set up, but we get it down in roughly 18 hours on November 1st. So basically, it's a long process, but the family helps out at the tail end, basically.
Well, that's good. That's good that you're that kind of thing, but definitely ran by you.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So to enter the attraction, you've kind of talked about having the donation set up and for the thing. And this year you've kind of chosen the Backpack Buddies.
That's
Can you tell me why you chose this charity and why did you decide to go with this charity this year?
No, it's a good question. So something that for me I've always wanted to do with this event is to raise money for a local organization group, something that actually affects people in our community. I think that's quite important. And so this year, Backpack Buddies, we chose it because, you know, the year prior we did the Vancouver Food Bank, which they were very, very appreciative of. And then this year, I was basically thinking, you know, how can I help kids in our community that deal with food insecurity? And that is essentially the entire mission of Backpack Buddies. And essentially just through kind of doing online research, I stumbled upon them, got to know them a little bit. And then actually what's really cool is I reached out, basically said, hey, here's what we're going to do for you guys. Is there anything you can do for me in any sort of way? And this year it's really cool. They partnered with us. And in addition to being able to drop off cash donations, there's a QR code. So you can donate online, which for a lot of people, it's a bit, you know, people feel safer donating online. It goes directly to them. And then, you know, you don't have to leave, you know, a lot of bills at the front of a house, basically, right? So definitely chosen for their mission. And then it was just really cool how they were able to work with us and help out.
How is it going about like picking those charities? Like, I know you mentioned that it was like picking for a local one, but is there like a theme usually you try to go for each year, or do you just kind of?
That's a good question. I think pretty much every year, at least for the past 4 years, the focus has been on food insecurity. It's for whatever reason, it's always just spoken to me as terms of something that, you know, I can't imagine people, like I said, literally could be in our neighborhoods that deal with. And so, the past 4 years, it's been the Share Food Bank, Vancouver Food Bank, and then now Backpack Buddy. So I think for me, just the main focus is people who suffer being able to just, you know, provide for their family and then the kids.
That's really awesome. What about Halloween has you doing all this? Why Halloween, not Christmas, not anything? Like, why Halloween?
So I'd say it's funny, actually. I've never really had that question, but it's a good one. I think, quite honestly, you know, the real reason I picked this time of year has a whole lot to do with just blending a bit of a passion mixed with a goal to just help out our community. I think, you know, for me, a huge part of the reason, you know, that I'm doing this whole thing is because, you know, I want to go into law enforcement. I want to help serve our community. However, I got to get my degree done first. And that does take some years. So a huge portion of, the behind the scenes and what pushes me to do this is just to give back to my community while I'm in school. And on the flip side to that, I have just a weird passion for Halloween. It's just kind of, everybody's got a season of the year. Everybody likes, you know, it's Christmas, it's Halloween, it's this or that. Halloween's my thing. I think a huge portion goes 100% to my neighbors and just the amount of childhood memories I have from their big event that they did every year. So for me, it's just being able to take something that I already like, mixed with a goal of mine to help out, and then we get this giant, insane haunted house out of it.
I love that. Halloween's my season too. Like all my family, it's Christmas, everything. So this is my time to shine. So I'm
exactly right.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, exactly. Not many people do, but you know, the some that do, it's appreciated, you know.
Absolutely. All right. You kind of mentioned that each year you're kind of going and you're building more and more. Do you already have ideas for your next season?
Yeah, unfortunately. My parents are like, you know, they're like, hey, like, how many years is this gonna go? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm doing it till I basically move out.
I love it. That's awesome. And my final question is there anything else you'd like to add before we close?
Any listeners out there in the lower mainland region, that it is worth the drive. The amount of families that we've had come up to me and say, hey, you know, we're from White Rock, South Surrey. I've had people from Abbotsford, and you know, again, I did previously mention this, but the fact that there's 2 haunted houses quite literally next door to each other, it's not something that you come take a look at and it's done in 2 minutes. It's a fun outing for a family or you know, a couple, what have you. So I just kind of like to say that if somebody out there is looking for something to do during this Halloween season, this is the place to be.
From passion to a truly selfless act of kindness, McCarthy Y is dedicated to make this season a memorable one for his community, as well as the charities he is working with. Thank you for listening to For the Record. I'm Grace McLeod with 1680 The Crow.
everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika King.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretanero.
And I'm Radhika King. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.
From the Broadcast Center at BCIT's Burnaby Campus, this is All Talk Radio. You're listening to 1680 The Crow.
Good afternoon. I'm Anthony Atanisov with 1680 The Crow. Here's what's making news right now. The federal government is looking at what it can do about short-term rentals after the British Columbia government announced a crackdown this week. Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland is applauding the BC government.
Our government is actively examining what options and tools exist at the federal level to ensure more short-term rentals are made available as long-term rentals, as permanent homes.
Freeland says the government will have more to say about its approach to short-term rentals soon. Coming out of Surrey, Premier David Eby says it's clear the city of Surrey will lose its legal fight over the province, forcing it to continue the transition to a municipal police force. He says despite Mayor Brenda Locke's attempts to reverse the legislation, the decision has been made.
It's important that you raise concerns about cost, about implementation, and we're going to be there to be a good partner to address those issues. But whether or not we're moving forward to a municipal force is no longer up for discussion. We are moving forward to a municipal force in Surrey, and for everybody's benefit, we need to just get on with that work, and I look forward to working with the mayor on that.
The city of Surrey says it would face a shortfall of $314 million over a 10-year period if it was forced to complete the transition to the Surrey Police Force, while the province has been offered $150 million to help. RCMP in Richmond confirmed that a pedestrian has died as a result of her injuries after being struck by a vehicle over the weekend. The crash happened on Granville Avenue around 6 a.m. on Saturday morning. The RCMP added that the driver is cooperating with law enforcement, and it is believed that impairment was not a cause factored into the accident. With Canada setting up new guidelines for alcohol and health this year, it became clear to Canadians that drinking more than necessary can have a bad influence. Our reporter Chris Koo had a talk with a substance and addiction specialist on how to manage the situation if it becomes too much.
According to the final report of Canada's guidance on alcohol and health, consuming more than 2 standard drinks per drinking occasion is associated with the increased risk of harm to self and others, including injuries and violence. It also adds that the heart disease risk or stroke from alcohol gets increasingly high after a person consumes more than 7 drinks or more per week. Recovery coach Michael Walsh from Vancouver speaks about how he interacts with clients that may have the symptoms of alcohol use disorder.
They are met with a comforting voice or dialogue with someone who receives them kind of as they are, right? I meet clients where they're at and provide a supportive environment.
The final report also suggests people should not start to use alcohol or increase their alcohol use for health benefits either. I'm Chris Koo from 1680 The Crow.
A tortoise by the name of Frank the Tank was found in a farm in Richmond today. It's become the latest instance of exotic pets being abandoned in recent years. Reporter Nicholas Poitras talks to a rescue expert on the main cause of these abandonments.
Frank the Tank, a 35-pound sulcata tortoise, was found wandering alone in a bok choy farm in Richmond. More and more every year, there has been an increase in exotic pets being surrendered or abandoned in the Lower Mainland. Mike Hopcraft, founder of Reptile Guy Rescue and Education Center, says that the housing crisis played a major role in the abandonments of animals like Frank the Tank.
Just this year alone, we're at 117 animals in. The majority of the animals coming in are because of the housing crisis and people not being able to find a home or having to downsize or having to move out of province, move out of country.
Frank was taken to an SPCA facility in Maple Ridge. Multiple applications for adoption have come in, but they are only accepting applications from experienced reptile owners. Nicholas Poitras, 1680 The Crow.
Now, moving on to your weather update. It's 13 degrees with lows of 12, currently raining in Metro Vancouver with no signs of easing up. Ultimately, what we've been seeing all day, and unfortunately, it looks like it'll be continuing throughout the night and into the morning as well. And that's it with your news and sports updates for the day. Thank you so much for tuning in on 1680 The Crow. Our producer today was Ben Bugera. I'm Anthony Atanasoff, and I'll see you tomorrow morning.
Stay tuned for more on BCIT's 1680 The Crow.
Everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the lower mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikki-King.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretanero.
And I'm Radhika Sikki-King. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.